Okay.
Stand here.
Okay. Well, good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's doing well and is healthy. I want to thank Senator Hirono for joining us. Senator Wyden is going to be on his way. Now, Leader McConnell and Senate Republicans are simply missing in action. America is facing one of the most challenging moments in our history. Where is the sense of urgency from Senate Republicans? Where are the Senate Republicans? We're facing the COVID pandemic, which is both a health and an economic crisis. We need to address the national desire to fix the systemic racial injustice in this country. We are demanding that Leader McConnell bring to the floor the COVID-4 bill and a racial justice and the racial justice bill, justice for policing in America, before July 4th, both bills. Republicans continue to sit on their hands. They're silent about these crises. Where are they? Where are they? And then adding insult to injury is more silence from the Republicans. President Trump this morning tweeted horrible comments about Mr. Gugino, the man who was pushed over in Buffalo. Republicans have been ducking and dodging about this. Leader McConnell was asked about it. He didn't say anything. When a 75-year-old man is pushed to the floor and he's bleeding, and Donald Trump blames the victim and comes up with a conspiracy theory, probably put out by the Russians, about who this man is, that's a disgrace. They can't even speak out on that. Wow. As demonstrations across the country are calling for action, House and Senate Democrats came together yesterday to unveil a sweeping reforms to our nation's police department. The Justice in Policing Act addresses the key areas of accountability, transparency, and police practices. The bill puts new restrictions on police behavior, bans chokeholds, mandates body cameras, and curtails the transfer of surplus military equipment to police departments. The bill would also make it easier to hold officers who break the rules and violate citizens' rights accountable. We need accountability to the many abuses that have been allowed to persist unchecked in our police departments. And of course, the COVID-4 bill is so important. Such a high percentage of renters are people of color, and we need help for them. Such a high percentage of people who are on the front lines. The HEROES Act gives them hazard pay. Such a high percentage who are unemployed are people of color. Unemployment runs out July 31st. So we need Leader McConnell and the Senate Republicans to bring both bills, the Justice in Policing and the HEROES Act, to the floor so America can watch us debate them and we can vote on them. The nation demands it. Senator Hirono.
I'm glad to join my colleagues. No, this is mine. We have to hang on to our own masks.
Here's mine.
I'm glad to join my colleagues. There are three crises facing our country right now. One is the health crisis because of the pandemic. The second is an economic crisis due to the pandemic, and the third is police brutality and systemic racism in our country. We Democrats have a sense of urgency to do something about all three, but notice that Mitch McConnell does not share our sense of urgency. In fact, what Mitch McConnell cares about most is protecting his own power. And while we're at it, let's just keep putting more right-wing, ideologically driven judges onto the federal judiciary for lifetime appointments. We need to do another COVID bill because millions of people are still unemployed. To see the president crowing over a 13% unemployment rate is, are we in Alice in Wonderland? Is that anything to crow about? Millions of people are unemployed, so we need to continue to support our workers. Their unemployment is going to run out. We need to support small businesses. Their PPP is going to come to an end, and they're not all going to be reopening as though nothing has happened. And in fact, Maui County has the highest unemployment rate of any municipality in the entire country. We need to do another COVID bill also, of course, to support our state and local governments because they are facing huge budget shortfalls. And if we don't help the state and local governments with these budget shortfalls to the tune of at least $500 billion for states, they're going to have to make some very tough decisions that will hurt our communities. And of course, there's a sense of urgency that we all have to pass the Justice in Policing Act. As our leader pointed out, to see the 75-year-old man getting knocked down and then to be told that we shouldn't believe our own eyes, it is just amazing. The closing of the eyes that President Trump continues to ask us to go with him on. He acts as though the pandemic is over. We're all going to get back to normal. He acts as though all of the protesters are going to go away. They're all going to go home, as though they are not raising huge concerns and expressing frustration about the systemic racism and police brutality in our country. So we need to pass the Justice in Policing Act. There is one part to this act that I particularly am supportive of as I pursue the idea of consent decrees by the Justice Department. And what these consent decrees mean is that you are able to investigate systemic brutality, a pattern of police misconduct, and through these consent decrees, make them clean up their acts. Under this administration, consent decrees are not pursued. So the systemic racism, the pandemic, all of these are very much tied together. There's a thread because, of course, blacks have suffered disproportionately because of the pandemic, inequality in healthcare, education, you name it. Minority communities have faced the most dire consequences as a result of the pandemic. All of these are tied together, and this is why the Democrats have a sense of urgency to do something about it.
Thanks, Mace.
Thank you.
Okay. Questions? Wait, you gotta move over a little. Okay.
Senator, today, Senator McConnell said that Republicans will be working on their own police reform bill led by Senator Tim Scott. Is that something that the caucus is prepared to support?
Well, we don't know what it is yet. I'd make 2 points. One, this bill has been carefully thought out, and there are so many different areas of abuse. We need this whole bill put on the floor and debated, the whole Justice in Policing Act. To do one piece would be a dereliction of our duty. And second, I am really worried. Remember when there was a lot of gun violence? And McConnell said, oh, our caucus is going to discuss it, we're going to deal with it, et cetera, and then they never did. I'm worried the same thing would happen here.
This idea of defund the police, should members of Congress, it's being used by some on the right to reject police reform outright. Should members of Congress stop using it altogether and others in the progressive
Well, let me
movement?
just say this. I agree with Senator Sanders and some of my other colleagues who said, of course, every city needs a police department. But there must be full equality under the law, and we're clearly not there. So my top priority is going to be to focus on getting this bill done, the whole bill, to deal with accountability, to deal with transparency, to deal with police practices. It does things like ban police violence, like chokeholds. It creates a registry, as Maisie mentioned. It holds the police officers who have had a series of charges against them and things filed against them accountable. And the Justice in Policing Act also uses the power of the federal funding to incentivize police departments across the country to implement these desperately needed standards. That's my focus.
Mayor Schumer, do you still endorse Representative Elliott Engel's reelection bid?
Well, I haven't endorsed in that race. I'm busy with Senate races.
Okay, so you've not endorsed it?
I have not. I have not. I have not endorsed. I'm focusing on the Senate.
Okay,
Thank you, everybody.
Are you worried at all that this defund the police argument, though, could become toxic for Democrats?
Look, I've given you my answer. If we pursue this bill, the public's on our side, and we will do very well.